Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 6 Part 13 based on novel. So let's start. Qingji's figure finally disappeared completely from the electric sea. The imposing aura that was pervading through the air weakened gradually as well. Lin Dong looked at the spot where Qingji's figure had disappeared and smacked his lips involuntarily. Apparently, he did not expect to have such a lucky encounter in this place. Even though he was still unclear about Qingji's origin and identity, he knew that the latter must be an extraordinary individual. Such individual was definitely a first-class existence in the entire universe. This fellow is quite powerful, little Martin stated as it used its claws to scratch its hairy face. Lin Dong smiled. To be able to survive from the ancient times until now was indeed a scary feat. Perhaps this Qingji was the legitimate old demon. However, this fellow is rather generous. With regards to this matter, Lin Dong completely agreed with little Martin as well. Even though he still could not fully comprehend the green heaven materialized dragon skill that Qingji had given him, he could indistinctly sense the boundless potential of this martial art. If he could master it, its might would be considerably terrifying. The green heaven materialized dragon skill was not like the great desolate imprisoning heavenly finger in the way that it was not solely an offensive martial art. From a different perspective, it could be considered as an extremely profound body transformation martial art. If he could master it, his entire physical body would become much more powerful. By then, every movement that he made would bring about devastating killing power. One of his fists or fingers would be comparable to a martial art. Naturally, Lin Dong clearly had not reached that level yet currently. Even if he relied on the heavenly dragon aura that Qingji had given him, he would barely make it past the first step. However, even if that was the case, he could already feel the benefits that the green heaven materialized dragon skill brought about. Just the green dragon skin alone had already strengthened his physical body significantly. Furthermore, Lin Dong had not fully absorbed the heavenly dragon aura. Currently, even if he had the devouring ancestral symbol, it was clear he could not refine this powerful heavenly dragon aura. The heavenly dragon aura will stay in his body and gradually fuse completely with his body as his powers became increasingly stronger. And when the heavenly dragon aura fused perfectly with Lin Dong, his physical body would be as abnormally powerful as those demonic beasts. Whoosh! Just as Lin Dong was overjoyed at the reward he reaped this time around, an enormous disturbance finally occurred at the boundless electric sea. The surrounding space started to get distorted and the rolling thunderous clouds in the sky were dissipating rapidly with an observable speed. Is it going to disappear soon? Upon seeing what was going on, Lin Dong muttered to himself softly. Just like what Qingji had said, the green dragon test would gradually disappear after he disappeared. The distortion of space was getting increasingly violent. Eventually, it was like a piece of shattered glass, crumbling completely with a snapping sound. As the electric sea collapsed, the surrounding space became formless and chaotic once again. From afar, it seemed as if the dusky space was filled with nothing but stillness. Crash! Lin Dong was suspended in this space of nothingness and he looked ahead of him with squinted eyes. There appeared to be a crisp sound of water flowing coming through that direction. Indistinctly, boundless and surging Nirvana chi was blasting towards him like a volcano eruption. After being blasted by the boundless Nirvana chi, the dusky color of the surrounding was being dulled rapidly. Then, 1,000 feet long, enormous and resplendent river appeared dazzlingly before Lin Dong's eyes. The river was bright red in color and the water in the river was rather thick and sticky. On the surface of the river, there were scarlet flames as well. That was the Nirvana flames, which was formed when the robustness of the Nirvana chi had reached a certain level. Apparently, this river was a pill river. From the look of it, its quality was undoubtedly a lot better than the one Lin Dong saw outside. Lin Dong was looking at the resplendent pill river with slight envy. It would take a terrifying huge amount of Nirvana pills to make such a high-quality pill river. This Qingji was indeed generous. This is a good place. Hey, it appears that Qingji also did me a favor too. Little Martin looked at the pill river that was flowing through the space of nothingness while nodding its head satisfyingly. Right now, little Martin already had the samsara pill. However, if it wanted to form its physical body, it would still need an extremely huge amount of energy to support the process. The Pill River before its eyes seemed to absolve its desperate need. Lin Dong smiled while nodding his head. If little Martin could recover its physical body, even if it could not return to its peak form in a short while, it would still be much more powerful than what it was now. By then, little Martin would be a great help to him. It will take quite a bit of time for me to form my physical body. It's okay. It just so happens that I need to train here as well and try to break through the second Nirvana tribulation, Lin Dong chuckled. His journey in ancient treasure trove was coming to an end. Right now, he was in no hurry to go outside. After all, he could not find such a perfect training ground while he was outside. Currently, everyone was hunting for the treasures scattered across the ancient battlefield. All the practitioners were trying their best to increase their strength in preparation for the 100 Empire War, which would be arriving in less than half a year's time. To vie for the treasures, the fights that broke out across the land were extremely intense as well. Right now, more than half of the ancient battlefield were in chaos. Lin Dong would rather train peacefully in this place than being out there. Upon hearing what was said, little Martin nodded its head. Soon after, its eye became gradually solemn. With a leap, it appeared in the middle of the Pill River. Then, with swipe of its claw, the black and white mysterious pill appeared on its claw. Traces of samsara chi were emitting from the pill. When the surrounding Nirvana chi came into contact with the samsara chi, the former dissipated immediately. Clearly, these two energies were not of the same level. Little Martin stared emotionally at the pill on its claw. After a slight moment of hesitation, it stuffed the pill directly into its mouth. Bang! When the samsara pill entered its mouth, a terrifying wave of energy gushed out from little Martin's body abruptly and swept up perilous torrents in the Pill River. Traces of the black and white samsara chi were seeping out from little Martin's body and extended outward gradually. Finally, they formed a black and white energy cocoon that engulfed little Martin's body entirely. Lin Dong looked at the black and white cocoon that was hovering in the Pill River. Indistinctly, he could sense the frantic energy waves that were emitting from the cocoon. Clearly, the inside of the cocoon was not as peaceful as it seemed on the outside. Apparently, the formation of a physical body was not an easy task and came along with significant risk as well. However, with regards to this issue, there was nothing much that Lin Dong could do about it. This matter depended only on little Martin and Lin Dong could not interfere. Hence, the only thing that he could do was to pray at one side for little Martin to complete this task successfully. Seems like it's my turn now. After staring at the black and white cocoon for nearly half an hour and realizing that there was nothing much he could do to interfere, Lin Dong finally gave up. Then, he took in a deep breath of air. With a jolt of his body, he landed on the only training platform on the Pill River. He was not little Martin and he could not directly absorb such thick Nirvana chi. Therefore, he needed the training platform to filter the Nirvana chi. Luckily, he possessed the devouring ancestral symbol and his absorption speed of the Nirvana chi would not be too slow. The second Nirvana tribulation. As Lin Dong sat on the training platform, his eyes were filled with eagerness. After this half a month of training in the electric sea and with the newly formed green dragon skin, his physical body was far more superior than even the bodies of those practitioners who had passed through the second Nirvana tribulation. Thus, he was rather confident in passing through the Nirvana tribulation. As Lin Dong closed his eyes and prepared to enter the training mental state, a thought flashed across his mind. I wonder how Little Flame is doing now. This place was a battlefield that was reeking of blood. Numerous blood-reeking figures flew back and forth within this battlefield. The sound of fightings and killings resounded through the battlefield while devastation pervaded the area. These figures were emotionless and their bodies were skinny and dried up like mummified corpses. Their eyes filled with killer intent and were blood-red in color. This place was just like hell. Bang bang. Deep and low voices came through the devastated battlefield. More than 10 figures exploded after being struck by the shadow of a rod. Then, an extremely dreadful aura of brutality swept across the battlefield like an ancient demonic beast. As the aura of brutality swept across the place, a muscular, giant-like figure walked out of the mountain of corpses and sea of blood with a heavy footstep while dragging along an enormous black-colored metal rod by his side. At this moment, the figure's seemingly dull face became azure-like, which was filled with malevolence and viciousness. Upon facing such malevolence, even the surrounding blood-eyed and mindless mummified corpses did not dare to go near it. They allowed the figure, whose entire body was covered in blood, to walk through them slowly and all the way till the end of this battlefield. That kind of malevolence could not even be stopped by this devastation-filled and blood-reeking place. While Lin Dong sealed himself within the inner sanctum of the Green Dragon Palace to cultivate, as anticipated, the endless ancient battlefield fell into a period of fighting and extreme chaos. Various treasure troves were gradually excavated and precious soul treasures, pills and even martial arts started to circulate. Within the ancient battlefield, the demand for these items exceeded the supply. Hence, they inevitably drew many coveting gazes. Thus, fights for these items were difficult to avoid. The various empires similarly invested a great deal of effort due to the appearance of these treasures. The fragile alliances between different groups were practically worthless under the allure of such treasures. Everyone wanted to obtain treasures because every person who was able to reach the ancient battlefield was not an ordinary individual. Likewise, their ambitions could not be compared to any ordinary folk. Each person desired to distinguish themselves in the 100 Empire War, in hopes of catching the eye of the super sects, allowing oneself to be akin to the cart that jumps through the Dragon Gate and completely change one's life. It is clear that these treasures that had originated from the treasure troves were a rather good shortcut to becoming even more powerful, and many did not plan on giving up on such a seemingly easily obtainable shortcut. And so, fights for these treasures were inevitable. As the various empires fiercely contested for these treasures, the entire ancient battlefield was filled with smoke. In the presence of this practically explosive atmosphere, more and more practitioners started to emerge and reveal their prowess. Amongst them, there were no lack of renowned practitioners from the high-ranked empires. Of course, there were also quite a few characters that had suddenly appeared from nowhere. These characters mostly consisted of the type who had by some stroke of luck obtained the inheritances of the treasure troves, and were all rather powerful. Hence, they could be regarded as sparkling dark horses. Chaos and struggles would eventually result in elimination. Likewise, they would also cause those remarkable characters to reveal their strength. The current ancient battlefield has truly reached its climax. After half a year of silence, every practitioner started to utilize all kinds of means to become people that were the focus of everyone's attention. While the entire ancient battlefield turned incomparably chaotic and explosive, a dazzling pearl river quietly flowed in the space within the depths of the ancient treasure trove, endlessly emitting an astonishing Nirvana chi. An alternating black and white striped light cocoon surrounded by black and white halos floated in the Pill River. Not even the slightest bit of Nirvana chi existed within a 100-meter radius of the halos. It was as if the Nirvana chi here was extremely fearful of that particular area. Two completely different scenes appeared within the halos. One was full of life and vitality, while the other was shrouded in a thick aura of death, so much so that even space itself had become dull and grey. Life and death. Two unique energies that controlled the cycle of heaven and earth continuously produced various marvelous sights. Within the light cocoon was naturally little Martin, who was in the process of creating a flesh and blood body. Ever since it had swallowed the samsara pill, it had spent an entire 3 months inside the light cocoon. In these 3 months, besides the light cocoon growing larger and larger, nothing else had occurred. No one knew what was happening within it due to the life and death chi lingering around the cocoon. However, the increasingly potent life and death chi around the light cocoon indicated that there was nothing to worry about. All in all, things were going rather smoothly for little Martin. On a cultivation platform several hundred feet from the black and white light cocoon, a figure silently sat like a meditating old monk. Waves of enormous devouring power continuously spread forth from his body. In the face of this devouring power, the surrounding vigorous Nirvana chi endlessly poured into Lin Dong's body. This speed would cause onlookers to feel completely amazed. 3 months. Lin Dong had spent practically every waking moment in the past 3 months painstakingly cultivating on this cultivation platform, and it was evident that his progress was rather fruitful. In fact, Lin Dong had already successfully passed the second Nirvana tribulation 2 months prior. Although the second Nirvana tribulation was more ferocious and berserk than the first, it had felt even more effortless for the Lin Dong, who had tempered his body for half a month within the Sea of Lightning and took the first step in the dragon transformation art. Hence, the second Nirvana tribulation had went so smoothly that even Lin Dong himself was astonished. If news of this matter was made known to others who had passed the Nirvana tribulation, they would only be depressed. Others were terrified of the Nirvana tribulation and barely managed to survive it after struggling with all their might, yet, when it came to Lin Dong, it was as easy as having a meal. Of course, Lin Dong naturally did not have any time to consider others' feelings. His ease in overcoming the second Nirvana tribulation was due to the inhuman pain he had suffered previously. This body of his, which was far stronger than practitioners of the same cultivation level, was not effortlessly obtained by Lin Dong through some kind of mystical treasure. No matter what, there was always a price to pay. One had to invest in other to obtain returns. This was the path of cultivation. Nirvana Chi churned atop the old cultivation platform, while Lin Dong's expression remained as calm as the abyss. The aura given off by his body was several times more powerful compared to 3 months before. He was now a true blue 2-yuan Nirvana stage practitioner. Given his battle power, he would be able to fight evenly against a 3-yuan Nirvana stage practitioner. In a short month of painstaking cultivation, Lin Dong had survived the second Nirvana tribulation. This speed was already rather impressive. However, Lin Dong was not too satisfied with it. Hence, he showed no signs of stopping even after he had passed the second Nirvana tribulation. Instead, he grew even more frenzied because his original goal was to pass the third Nirvana tribulation before he left this place. Lin Dong was not arrogant. He clearly understood the level of those hidden dragons and crouching tigers within the ancient battlefield. The fact that he had a somewhat fortunate encounter meant that others would have very likely met with something even more miraculous. The good luck in the world would never fall solely on him alone. The strength of the 2-yuan Nirvana stage could indeed allow him to turn up his nose on the majority of practitioners. However, if he encountered the powerhouses on the Nirvana rankings, he would barely be able to match up. Thus, before the arrival of the 100 Empire War, he needed to raise his strength to the limit. For him, that limit was enduring the third Nirvana tribulation. Phew! Atop the cultivation platform, Lin Dong's breathing slightly intensified as a black hole spread out behind his body. Immediately, the surrounding Nirvana Chi once again madly sped towards his body like a torrential rain. The Pill River flowed in the grey space. A stillness that no one could break shrouded the place, and only the occasional sounds from the Pill River brought a sliver of liveliness to this domain. In this kind of place, the concept of time could not be felt. In such a way, another month stealthily passed. While the fires in the ancient battlefield burned bright, the Pill River remained quiet and peaceful. Crash! Above the surging Pill River, a scarlet-red Nirvana fire leaped into the air. Suddenly, the entire Pill River violently trembled. Following which, the abundant Nirvana Chi started to rush towards the cultivation platform at a shocking speed. In the face of such an amount of Nirvana Chi, a faint golden light flowed on the figure within. Seated there like a golden monk, extremely unstable yuan power undulations continuously rippled outwards from the figure's body. The pure golden color that had appeared on Lin Dong's skin was slightly tinged with a strange scarlet red, while the surrounding air grew drier. These unstable undulations was a sign that the Nirvana tribulation was coming. Lin Dong's third Nirvana tribulation had finally arrived after another 3 months. Like a metal to a magnet, the Nirvana Chi within the Pill River was drawn over, becoming extremely berserk. With the cultivation platform as its epicenter, the Nirvana Chi faintly showed signs of transforming into a storm as plumes of Nirvana fire shuttled back and forth within it. At the center of this enormous storm was Lin Dong's silently seated figure. The current him had a solemn look on his face, and he was no longer as relaxed as when he faced the second Nirvana tribulation. Nirvana tribulations. Each one was more deadly than the previous, and its might would multiply each time. By relying on the power of his body, Lin Dong might be able to easily survive the second Nirvana tribulation. However, if faced with the third Nirvana tribulation, even he would not find it as simple as before. Roar? As the undulations from Lin Dong's body grew increasingly berserk, a low dragon's roar suddenly rang out from within his body. Green light extended outwards, condensing into a layer of green light on his skin. This was the awe-inspiring green dragon skin that could only appear after cultivating the green dragon transformation art. Evidently, to cope with the third Nirvana tribulation, Lin Dong had brought all his cards into play. Now, he wanted to find out exactly how terrifying the third Nirvana tribulation that numerous practitioners feared was. The Scarlet Hurricane was spinning with a terrifying speed above the boundless Pill River. The crazy energy waves that it was releasing were enough to make a 3-yuan Nirvana stage practitioner palpitate with fear. Lin Dong's figure was sitting silently in the middle of that hurricane. His facial expression was incredibly solemn, while faintly containing a tinge of nervousness as well. Clearly, even he himself did not dare to be too reckless when dealing with the third Nirvana tribulation. In this world, there were a lot of talented geniuses who had died during these Nirvana tribulations. All these years, Lin Dong had to fight bitterly in order to gain the success that he enjoys today. Therefore, before he becomes the best in the universe, he did not want to join the ranks of those pathetic fallen geniuses. Boom! The hurricane swirled around the training platform. Suddenly, numerous streaks of scarlet Nirvana flames shot out and blasted towards the seated Lin Dong. Originally, Nirvana tribulation is a kind of tribulation that occurred within a practitioner's body. However, as the number of Nirvana tribulations one went through increased, the difficulty of the Nirvana tribulations will increase as well. Take this third Nirvana tribulation for example. Not only would the Nirvana tribulation attack from within one's body, but it would also activate the Nirvana chi between heaven and earth and carry out an attack from the outside. By then, the internal attack and the external attack would coincide, and catch one completely off guard. Right now, Lin Dong was situated in the middle of the Pill River. The Nirvana chi present in the Pill River was extremely dense. As such, the kind of attack from the Nirvana tribulation would be much more stronger and troublesome to deal with. Streaks of scarlet Nirvana flames whizzed downwards like meteors that fell through the sky. Eventually, accompanied by violent energy waves, they collided ruthlessly onto Lin Dong's body. Bang bang! Muffled explosions could be heard repeatedly throughout Lin Dong's body. That kind of scorching heat was corroding Lin Dong's body frantically. However, at this moment, the green dragon skin that was covering Lin Dong's body began to display extraordinary defensive abilities. As the faint green light diffused, it completely isolated the incoming spiraling Nirvana flames from Lin Dong's skin. On the surface, it seemed like Lin Dong was being engulfed by raging Nirvana flames. However, if one was to take a closer look, one would observe that a faint green glow was flickering on Lin Dong's skin. Furthermore, even though the green glow might seem weak, it was actually what kept the Nirvana flames from penetrating Lin Dong's skin. Naturally, Lin Dong knew everything about the external attack. Hence, when he saw the attacking Nirvana flames being stopped completely by the green dragon skin, he silently heaved a sigh of relief. However, soon after, he became anxious once again. That was because he knew that even though the external attacks might be troublesome, he knew that he could handle it. However, the truly thorny matter was the attacks that came from within his body. Lin Dong's attention was focused on scanning the inside of his body. His yuan power was flowing rapidly through his bones and limbs, preparing to come to the aid of any parts of his body that were in trouble at all times. Lin Dong's wait did not last too long before he saw a wisp of black-colored flame appearing mysteriously. Nirvana Demon Flame. When Lin Dong saw this wisp of black-colored flame, his heart contracted firmly. This thing was the most troublesome problem of the third Nirvana tribulation. Once its terrifying melting power proliferated in the body, all the internal organs would be melted in an instant without a trace. Previously, Lin Dong had seen this kind of flames in the Nirvana burning sky array, and he even subdued the flames. After that, Lin Dong was able to use the flames and put Lin Langqian in an unknown life or death situation. Thus, he knew everything about the destructive powers of the flames. It has finally arrived. Lin Dong muttered softly in his heart. Soon after, without saying anything unnecessary, he focused his mind and channeled out his yuan power, which completely engulfed that wisp of black-colored flame. TCH. As if it had sensed Lin Dong's action, that wisp of Nirvana demon flame started to act as well. With a sway of its body, its terrifying melting power started to extend outward swiftly. Immediately, the yuan power that engulfed it was melted with a visible speed. Troublesome thing. Upon seeing this, even though Lin Dong already prepared for it mentally, he still could not help but curse it. He then quickly channeled an even larger amount of yuan power and surrounded the Nirvana demon flame. No matter what, he could not let the melting power of the Nirvana demon flame extend to the vulnerable but important internal organs in his body. The only way to withstand something like the Nirvana demon flame was to make use of the vigor of yuan power and put out the flame by brute force. However, this method required an enormous exhaustion of yuan power. When individuals who had weak foundation tried to survive this Nirvana tribulation, due to their deficiency in yuan power, the Nirvana demon flame would wreak havoc in their bodies and ultimately cost them their lives. The foundation of Lin Dong's yuan power was rather strong. Therefore, it would not be too stressful for him when he used this method for quite a while. However, he clearly understood that there would not just be one wisp of Nirvana demon flame appearing in the third Nirvana tribulation. Otherwise, there would not be so many practitioners who had fallen at this stage. That frail wisp of Nirvana demon flame was engulfed by vigorous yuan power. No matter how much it released its melting power, it still could not break out of the yuan power. Instead, as it constantly released its melting power, it began to melt gradually till the point when it finally dissipated completely. Just as the wisp of Nirvana demon flame disappeared, Lin Dong's chest tightened up immediately. He knew that what coming next was the main highlight. TCH. Lin Dong's highly anticipated wait lasted for approximately half a minute before an activity was detected inside of his body. Speckles of black-colored glow extended mysteriously in his body. Finally, like a vast sky full of stars, these speckles of black glow materialized into hovering black flames. Upon witnessing such an amount, Lin Dong firmly heaved in a breath of cold air. Then, surging yuan power whizzed out of his dantian and engulfed those Nirvana demon flames with a terrifying speed before they could release their melting powers. Boom! At the moment when the flames were being engulfed by the yuan power, Lin Dong knew that an extremely arduous to-and-fro tussle was about to start. Horrifying melting powers were released in an intimidating amount. 1/10 of the yuan power in Lin Dong's body was melted within a few minutes' time. At this moment, the terrorizing aspect of the Nirvana demon flame was revealed gradually. Facing such a huge exhaustion of yuan power, Lin Dong's facial expression became somber. Luckily, he did not panic. He understood that if he panicked at this moment, it would be the end for him. While keeping his heart calm, Lin Dong systematically drew out a steady flow of yuan power from his dantian. He would immediately send the yuan power to whichever part of his body that could not resist the flames anymore. No matter what, he could not let these Nirvana demon flames injure the inside of his body. That was because it would be a fatal blow. Lin Dong's performance was rather good. However, the amount of Nirvana demon flames that appeared this time around was rather large, making it particularly difficult to deal with. That kind of powerless exhaustion made Lin Dong's eyebrows to involuntarily knit. Naturally, the Nirvana demon flames did not care about Lin Dong's emotions. They continued to burn ragingly and emit their terrorizing melting powers. It seemed that they had vowed not to give up until Lin Dong had been completely melted. In this kind of stalemate battle, Lin Dong's yuan power was melting rapidly. After about 10 minutes, approximately half of the yuan power in his body had already been depleted. However, these Nirvana demoni flames did not show any sign of disappearing. Instead, they were burning with increasing fervor. Upon seeing this, Lin Dong sighed deeply. With a jolt of his mind, boundless mental energy gushed out abruptly from his Niwen palace, which eventually replaced his yuan power. When his mental energy replaced the yuan power entrapping the Nirvana demon flames, Lin Dong's mind jolted again and a wave of devouring power was emitted. At this moment, the Nirvana chi from the surrounding heaven and earth surged swiftly into Lin Dong's body, replenishing the yuan power that had been exhausted. Lin Dong was different from other Nirvana practitioners. Not only did he possess a remarkable achievement in the mastery of his yuan power, he also had an extraordinary attainment in the mastery of his mental energy. He was proficient in both types of energy. If he was to use them concurrently, he could engage in an Overwatch battle with these Nirvana demon flames. This was one advantage that Lin Dong possessed. The turn for the better seemed to occur right now. Facing an Overwatch battle with the two types of energy, even the Nirvana demon flames would have to suffer. Some weaker wisps of Nirvana demon flames were already gradually showing signs of disappearing under such resistance. However, even though the situation seemed to change for the better, Lin Dong did not show signs of slacking off. As long as these Nirvana demon flames were not extinguished completely, they could still emit terrifying energy in an instant. Hence, there was no room for negligence. Under Lin Dong's impregnable defense, the Nirvana demon flames were becoming helpless gradually. Wisp by wisp, the dangerous Nirvana demon flames started to disappear one after another. When Lin Dong saw this, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, when he saw these Nirvana demon flames disappear, he felt that a tinge of regret. These Nirvana demon flames possessed powerful killing powers. Even a 3UR Nirvana stage practitioner would be severely injured if his or her body was being infiltrated by these flames. Hence, if he could subdue them, it will be a powerful trump card in his hands. Subdue them? Lin Dong muttered to himself as he focused his attention on those mysterious and devilish black-colored flames. This video will end here.